Child prostitution. It's a horrible name, but I was one. And I'm going to tell you how, why. And I hope that somebody hears this and listens, because the authorities most certainly didn't, haven't, and won't. The old man asked for us to be put into care because he couldn't cope. We were put straight into care, and I'm pretty sure because we were all in the same home, we were all under the care of the one and same authority. A big family home, 7 kids,
yeah,
and a couple that we called Mummy and Daddy.
Were they all from the care system, the kids?
Yes, and deputies would come in, but they ran the home as parents would run a home.
Right, okay.
You know, it was like living with Mum and Dad.
Okay.
Only normal mums and dads don't sexually abuse you.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the first night is imprinted because I was put in a big sink in the kitchen to be washed and bathed.
Right.
A finger up the arse. It's the only way I could describe it now. This went on, I was taken away, and again, it's documented. But believe you me,
okay,
every word of what I'm going to tell you is the truth. I'd be kept back in the house when the other kids went out so that they could do it. I was moved around and taken from place to place, auntie to auntie, uncle to uncle, for 2-3 days at a stretch. And I was being sold.
Right.
By hour, by the day. There were days when I couldn't go to school because my back passage was bleeding or I was bruised. I ran away to Borehamwood police station in the middle of winter.
Why was you going to get hiding? What happened?
I hadn't satisfied someone. Refusing to do things was having the mouth washed out with the old red carbolic soap and getting a sound thrashing with a wooden spoon.
And it dovetails in with so much that I uncovered when especially looking at the children's homes in Haringey. The police were fully aware of what was going on. These kids were regular missing persons and they would just be returned, and no one would ever debrief the kid. And then he's taken the bold move at the age of 6, half naked, running through the streets through the winter in a village in Hertfordshire, taken to the police, who just return him straight back to the ones that have done it, and with the suggestion that he gets another hiding.
It became a way of life, actually, because if the Woods weren't giving me a whacking, the headmaster of the local school would do it on their behalf. It made no difference. As an only child then, because my siblings had gone, with no one to go to, no one to cry to, I was ripe. I was like a little plum plucked from the bloody tree and ready for skinning.
So we've established what sort of people Bob and Ivy Woods were, you know, and from I mean, without putting any words in anyone's mouth, it seemed to be a well-oiled machine they were running here.
Oh yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
They were running a child brothel, in essence.
They were part of a ring.
A ring.
It was incredible because when I was moved, my behaviour got so bad that I had to be moved. But I got sent to Liscard Lodge.
Right, and where is Liscard Lodge?
Blackheath. It was absolutely rife. Virtually every child that was there had been sexually abused in one way or another. And you couldn't say anything because you had no one to go to. I was then sent to the Hollies. Liscard Lodge was a stopgap.
Yeah, now the Hollies crops up a bit.
What they call a cottage home. It was in Sidcup. It's now the same houses sell for millions that we lived in. And I was put in the all-male house, all-boy house, where testosterone ruled the dormitories. It wasn't a case of just the staff attacking you, but they would encourage the boys to do it as well.
Right.
And this went on. I used to run away on a regular basis. They would move me overnight on what we used to call the kids, put you on the ghost train, and you'd end up at another home. I ended up at Shirley Oaks. I ended up at Stanford House. I ended up all over the place, and in every single one was abuse. The Hollies, I'd be taken to the meat rack. Now, the meat rack, for those of you who don't know the meat rack, the meat rack was a place in Piccadilly Circus where we used to be taken at night when it was dark, and the bright lights, it was a wondrous place. And they'd ask if you were a white chicken or a cooked chicken. We were chickens.
Can you explain that term?
The white chicken was new to the game.
Right, okay.
A black chicken or a cooked chicken was a well-used kid.
Yeah. It was still being termed that when I was on Vice, the chickens and the meat rack.
See, now you're the first person who's ever said that to me.
Yeah, no, it's well established. The police knew what was going on.
Oh.
When you say they took us there and we were picked up... Staff, right.
From the homes. How many member of staff?
How many of you would go, and what age groups were you?
Oh, I'd be taken more often on my own.
Yep.
And it pre-arranged meetings. The meat rack was the place to meet.
Yep.
That's where you were selected, if you like. And you were told, you say nothing, you go. And then you'd be brought back after you'd been used.
Yep.
And brought back. And if someone else wanted you and they had time, they'd take you to...
But was it like with the clientele? Was there any sort of pattern to it? Could you put a genre around them, or was it just a mix?
No, it was always what I would have termed as a child wealthy, smelly, old men.
Right, okay, and that seems to be the other pattern.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it crops up.
And it was always in nice. It was never dingy.
And when you say wealthy, what class bracket would you put these people in?
Oh, civil servants, top notch, the bowler hat brigade,
right,
and above. They were judges, they were police officers, they were probation officers.
Yeah, and that consistent.
Men of every description, but very, very rarely was it the working class man.
Yeah.
And it was always, almost to a point, married men.
Yeah.
Or men of good standing. We might get half a crown or sweets, or in them days a hot dog.
Right.
You know, or you might get a glass of beer. You know, it depended how they felt.
And in respect to venues, what would the venues be?
Oh, they were always nice places.
Yeah.
Nice gentlemen's club type places, but probably, well, they were. A lot of them were flats in Pimlico where we went.
Right. What age did it start filtering out, or did times change for you?
When I went to the nautical school at 14.
Were there any times when you actually needed medical assistance because of what was going on?
Numerous times. But when you're in the home, they bring their own doctor in.
Yeah, right.
You know, let's be right, the Hollies had a hospital on the premises, or a sick bay. You were never taken to hospital because they have to explain.
A matron.
You know, you had a matron. Every home had a matron.
So questions that need to be asked is that, as well as the police officers that would have picked up the runaways, as well as others that would have been made aware, there would have been school teachers that would have been told by a distressed child. What about the staff, the cooks, the matrons? They would have known what was going on. It would have been regular discussion what was going on.
As a child of care, it was a known fact that you were a liar. Wilson's at Boreham Wood, the welfare officers used to come down and make sure that everything was tickety-boo in the house. And they would take the child that was under their remit into an office and talk to them and say, look, what do you feel? What is happening? Are you happy? You know, the usual crap. But when I tried to tell them the truth, and it is documented, Ivy Woods had her ear to the door and she burst in and screamed that I was a liar and I was making it up. And Miss Horsley left. The time when she came down, I wasn't there, and the deputy head house mother had said, Bob and Ivy have taken him away for 3 days because he has been naughty. I do not know when he is coming back. Now, I have that in the record here in my home, but it was never ever followed up. If you don't tell someone, it will fuck you up. It has taken me 60 years plus to try and find peace with this shit. I went to the police. I had the police come here and interview me. Video it, if you please. And then politely tell me to fuck off because he didn't believe it. I've got partial records. All right, the records don't say, or he was bummed, or he gave oral sex at this age, at that place, because no council, no care authority in their right mind is going to write that, and no care authority,
of course they're not,
accepts it happened on their watch.
I've had this with the police, and they said, but there's no record of some of my claims. I said, these are discreet corridor conversations. You really think they're going to record minutes of collusion, conspiracy to shut you up? They're not going to do it. But that doesn't negate the fact that it goes on, and how naive of people to think that. Michael, the other thing we got to look, this is organised criminality.
Oh Christ!
They were making money, and you also go on in your book about on occasions when you're being abused that someone was filming it.
Yes.
So child porn, and it's just absolute madness. And this has been going on. And if it wasn't Michael, there'd be another kid in there.
Oh, there were others.
And there was kids after him.
Yeah.
This pattern keeps emerging. The politicians know about it. They've been told. We've got a very brave Chief Constable called Mike Veal, who's actually put forward the case that Ted Heath was actively involved in it.
Uncle Teddy.
Uncle Teddy.
Sailor.
We've heard once before from another victim at a kids' home where he gets mentioned. Funny enough, I was speaking to someone who was asked to write the book, and she couldn't believe that he was involved in it. And I said, well, why would you even know? You're not an 8-year-old boy. Why would it? And it's getting people to accept this went on. There is still this massive willful ignorance and this cognitive dissonance that this went on, and that is one of our biggest enemies, is ignorance. That needs to be, and hopefully these videos will go a long way to doing it.
I just want people to understand that this did go on, and it went on a massive scale. And these rings of paedophiles, they're linked around Europe, around the country.
I've always said that the biggest secret society is the paedophile, not the Masons, not the Illuminati, or not any of that nonsense. The biggest secret society, the most dangerous one, the paedophile, and they are connected. And it knows no social boundaries, it knows no religious connotation, nothing. They are what they, and one thing, they do it because they enjoy doing it.